It's Dr. Melissa McCreery from TooMuchOnHerPlate.com, and we're talking about strategies to stop overeating. Today we are going to tackle hunger and fullness. Hunger and fullness. Sounds kind of like a no-brainer, right? All of us who've ever struggled with overeating know that whole idea of just eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. Most of us who struggled with overeating have beat ourselves up because that's not what happened. Either we ate when we weren't hungry, or we overate and we got too full, or we weren't even paying attention to those things when we ordered off the menu. It happens all the time. If you're someone who struggled with overeating for a while, or if it feels like you've been on a hamster wheel in terms of your relationship with food and overeating and with your weight, then it's quite likely that you're not as in touch with hunger and fullness as you might be. And that can really get in the way when it comes to creating freedom from overeating. If you're somebody who struggled with overeating for a while, then your brain is probably full of lots of shoulds. When you should eat, how much you should eat, when you should be hungry. I can't tell you how many women tell me, well, I really shouldn't be hungry. I ate this, but I know I really couldn't have been hungry then. Well, wait a minute. We learn about our hunger and our fullness from the inside, from paying attention to ourselves, not from paying attention to outside rules or clocks or calendars or what worked for somebody else. Excessive diet and weight loss advice can get you completely out of touch with your own hunger and fullness. You know what else can get you out of touch with hunger and fullness? Mindlessness. Do you know how much overeating happens on autopilot? It's just a reaction, an automatic behavior, something that we do without really paying attention, either because we're just conditioned to reaching for food when we feel a certain way, or filling our plate to the size that the plate allows us to, or eating the portion that they bring us in a restaurant without really thinking about, wait a minute, what do I need? What is my body feeling? How much will make my body feel good and full and satisfied? These are really important skills to have if you're working to create freedom from overeating. So let's talk about creating a new relationship with hunger and fullness. What you want to do is you want to practice listening to yourself and learning your own cues for when you're hungry and when you're satisfied. How do you do this? Well, it takes practice. Some people like to use a hunger scale, which goes from 0, absolutely empty, to 10, so stuffed that you're uncomfortable and you need to loosen your pants and you can't get off the couch. And practicing rating themselves. Where am I in terms of emptiness and fullness? You likely will know a couple of those numbers, but very few people can fill in all 10 numbers on that scale in terms of how it feels inside your body when you're a 2 or a 4 or a 7 or an 8. That's something that you might want to practice. The other thing that you might want to practice is simply asking the question, how hungry or full am I? This is something that you can do when you have a craving. This is something that you can do before you sit down for a meal. This is something you can practice doing when you pick up a menu in a restaurant. Before you look at what looks good, you can start to ask yourself, how much food would feel satisfying to me? And this is something that we all benefit from practicing and asking ourselves if we're eating out in a restaurant or if somebody else is serving our plate for us when the food arrives. Just because a full 12-inch plate full of pasta arrives doesn't mean that's the amount our body needs. And so learning to practice asking yourself, what do I need right now? What is my hunger level? What is my fullness level? And doing that a couple of times during your eating experience, during your meal, these are habits that are going to pay off big. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to design an experiment that you can live out over the next week around hunger and fullness. When are you going to check in with yourself around how full you are and how hungry you are? And what's going to help remind you to do this? Do you want to set a reminder on your phone? Do you want to make a note in your calendar? Do you want to put a Post-it note on your steering wheel so that when you get in the car to go to work every day, you remember, oh yeah, I'm checking on my hunger and fullness today. What will help you check in, ask these questions? When are the best times in your day to ask these questions? And can you give yourself permission to not be perfectionistic about this, not be, oh, I was good at it, or I was bad at it, or I ate when I wasn't hungry about it, but can you give yourself permission to be curious and to learn from noticing your own hunger and fullness levels? That's my tip for you today. If you want more tips and strategies about ending cycles with overeating and creating freedom and peace with food, be sure to subscribe to this channel, and be sure to go to toomuchonherplate.com and take the free Hidden Hunger quiz, where you can find out what's driving your overeating and get your very next action steps.